All right, we're going to talk about the Indian Rebellion. I left you here with Britain takes over India, and the EIC manages to take over the entire continent of India and begins to run it. Now, in India, there were British people. These small group of white people were trying to control millions of Indian people. So for their safety, the British Army came over and stationed soldiers in India to protect these governors and people like Robert Clive. The thing is, obviously, these British armies was paying people to look after other people, and there were Indian soldiers that needed jobs. So they took up a position in the British Army, working just to basically act as the police of India. And these men were called sepoys. Now, the thing is, sepoys were not really treated very well in the British Army. They were not really respected for their religion. They were seen as lesser human beings by white people for the reasons we've stated before. But the situation for sepoys was already not in the greatest of states. I think they were usually put forward to the worst kinds of jobs in the army, like dealing with explosives and things. And knowing that, they were upset. There was one action that the British Army made in 1857 that kicked off a rebellion that lasted for more of a year. And that was that they introduced the Enfield rifle. It was basically the newest military gun on the market. And if you think about the history of guns, if a gun was first invented, they're basically super slow. You used to have to fire them, and then you'd have to refill them with gunpowder. One bullet had to go in, and then you'd be able to fire it again. It took ages to actually fire a gun. So improvements in guns basically made you be able to fire guns faster, or reload your guns faster. Think about now with guns going, that has taken time to get there. So back then, the Enfield rifle had a brand new invention to make it fire faster, which was what's called a greased cartridge. Rather than having to carry a pouch of gunpowder on your hip and a pouch of bullets and like a little stick to push down all this stuff, instead, this greased cartridge was basically a little cartridge you can see in the top left that contained a bullet and some gunpowder, and it was wrapped in a wax-sealed case. Now, this wax-sealed case had to be made sure it was watertight, otherwise the gunpowder would be ruined. And they sealed it in fat, in beef and pork fat. Now, the way you were supposed to open this cartridge was to bite it, rip it off the top, pour your gunpowder in, pour your bullet in, smack, gunshot. The thing is, that would require every sepoy in the British Army to basically break their religious laws. If you know that most people in India are either Muslim or Hindu, both beef and pork are, well, not right for those religions. So all of these, basically, Indian soldiers were being asked to break their religious vows for the British Army. Most of them refused. A good number refused, I believe, in Mayru in 1857. And the thing is, they were all arrested immediately and sent to jail for 10 years. This was a punishment to try and make all of the sepoys fall in line. But the thing is, it didn't make them all go, oh, we should really bite our greased cartridges. It said, "Oi, why are you trying to break our religious vows?" And they went to war. The main battles were fought in Delhi. There were massacres from both sides. I believe they killed 200 British women in a place called Kanpur. And Britain lost its mind. These inferior people were fighting back against them. They'd hired these people, and these people had fought against them. Britain was angry. The idea of people in Britain seeing that India was rebelling against them was absolutely unbelievable. So the EIC sent 70,000 troops to India to try and stop it, and these people arrived with hatred in their hearts. The kinds of massacres that Britain did at this time were horrific. The one that really sticks in my mind is that a number of Muslim sepoys were buried, and should we say buried inside pig skin as like a final religious kind of hatred moment. I'd call it a hate crime, and this was common. Britain fought the war for a year, lots of money and resources spent trying to win against the sepoys, and it did look like they might have lost, but Britain did manage to win after a year of fighting, and India was brought back under British control. Now, Britain, after this, decided, well, we don't really want that to happen again. We can't just let them revolt every so often. We've got to at least make them like us a bit. So the idea that was had was that Queen Victoria destroyed the EIC. The EIC was not doing a good enough job in looking after India for her, so she took it over herself, changing the control of India to what's called the British Raj, which basically means queen, or basically means like ruler, monarchy. And Queen Victoria established a viceroy to look after India instead, and they made a lot more changes to India that could be seen as positive. They were respecting religious laws and boundaries, unlike what they were doing before. There was better pay. There was more focus on Indian people's, should we say, rights as human beings being respected. So you could say that the Indian Rebellion was successful at the cost of thousands of people's lives and the disrespect of their religion across our entire subcontinent. Now, the name of this rebellion is actually disputed. Is it mutiny, a rebellion, or an independence war? If you were in India, it's called the War of Independence. And there's obviously, depending on who you are, you'd see this rebellion as, should we say, you'd see this rebellion as something of a personal instinct about how you fight back against an oppressor. But that's not the matter. You need to know what happened in this Indian rebellion and what the consequences were for, should we say, Britain running its empire, because it changed the way Britain ran its empire. So what you need to know first is who were sepoys and why did they work for the British? What was the spark of the rebellion? Why were people angry to start fighting back against the British? What are the base facts of this war? Like, where did it start? Where's the main, should we say, things that happened during it? What were the consequences of the rebellion? What did it change for Britain and India? And lastly, why is the name of this rebellion still argued about? There are 2 pages in the textbook pages section on Teams that you will be able to use to answer those questions to the best of your ability. Please write them down or revise them or say them out loud. You need to know this stuff intently. But as all I say, good luck.